This podcast is a production of Mutant Donkey. If you like Mutant Donkey, please consider supporting us on our Patreon at patreon.com/Mutant Donkey. You can also follow us on Twitter at Mutant_Donkey. We also have a presence on YouTube at the Mutant Donkey channel, so please like and subscribe if you like this. Thank you.
Mute Donkey. Donkey. Mute Donkey. 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 Donkey.
Mutant.
Donkey.
Podcast.
Mutant.
Podcast.
Donkey.
Podcast.
Mutant.
Mutant.
Donkey. Donkey. Donkey.
Podcast.
Donkey. Donkey. Donkey.
Podcast. Yeah,
Sure.
let me scratch. Can you guys hear that?
Can you not?
Oh, okay.
Can you just not?
It's a great way to start the podcast. Okay, well, we're introducing Candy. Shut up, Josue. Okay, Candyman from California. Say hi.
Hi.
And then we have Ethansito from Texas.
Hi.
We have Mupi from Texas.
Howdy.
We have Andrewsito from Texas.
Hello.
And we have Josue from Puerto something, right?
Puerto something, yeah.
Okay,
How's it
yeah.
going?
Pretty good, pretty good. Okay, so you guys ready to start this thing?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes.
So, alright, let's start at the top of the order.
The power is yours.
The power is ours. Any interesting experiences lately? Like, what have you done lately that has tickled your fancy? Let's start with Ethan from Texas.
Well, today I was playing some CSGO,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a pretty intense match. I was playing with people who were ranked a lot higher than me. And then at the end of the game, like right before the end, one of our teammates got banned for cheating.
Ooh.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Was he using a bot or something? An aimbot?
Yeah, he got banned from VAC for using software.
What a
So-
nerd.
That was kind of embarrassing.
But could you
No
tell that
kidding.
he was using the software, or was he actually doing well?
Yeah, he was doing pretty well, and the automated computer system picked up on him that he was using that.
Oh, okay. Was he using that thing where it makes you dodge all the time? That spinning thing?
No, I think he was just using like wall hacks to see where people were.
Oh, okay. Cheater. Yeah.
So that's the last time I queued with that guy.
Well, I don't know. Do you have a choice of who to queue with when you play that?
Yeah, because I had gotten into a lobby with one guy
Mm-hmm.
who I know, and he's like really high ranked. So when you have a really high rank with a really low rank, you have to have all 5 people in a queue,
Okay.
or else it won't let you do it.
Oh,
so
I see.
we're just like inviting random people in.
Okay. Cool. So, Candyman, let's go to you. Do you have any interesting experiences you want to talk about that you've had lately? Candyman? Yeah,
So
there you
I
go.
have been playing a game called Space Engineers that's actually pretty interesting.
Uh-huh.
It's kind of like Empyrean, except it's not as survivally. It's like more focused on the building side of things than on the kind of the combat side of things.
Some more realistic physics, I guess.
Yeah, so it's more realistic physics. Yeah, I've had some pretty. So probably the best one I saw here is so the best thing that probably happened to me was really interesting. So everything has realistic weight and physics. So I made a ship and I was taking off from the planet because I wanted to go to the moon.
Mm-hmm.
And I had to build. This one doesn't have like blueprints like Empyrean where you can just like spawn in a ship and go happy time. You have to like build your own ship. So I built my ship and I decided to fly to the moon. I got up out of orbit and I was feeling really proud of myself. But then the moon was kind of across the planet from me. Like I had to skip across the atmosphere to get to the moon because it wasn't. Turns out I wasn't like directly below the moon when I left the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So I was getting across the atmosphere and just going towards the moon. And I thought I was getting closer to the moon. And I saw my velocity was 100 meters a second, which is the cap that the game can simulate.
Okay.
And I was like, well, I've got to be getting closer to the moon. And it turned out I was caught in the gravitational pull of the planet, and I crashed into the planet. I literally got pulled back down to the planet, and the 100 meters a second was actually it doesn't tell you your velocity in relation to anything. It just tells you how fast you're going. And so it turned out I was going 100 meters a second straight down. So my ship hit the surface of the planet and just blew up into huge pieces.
Jesus Christ!
You blew the planet? I mean,
not on purpose.
Not on purpose. That's pretty funny. But actually, I missed a step. I needed to ask you about your gaming credentials. Because I know you have like massive gaming credentials, right?
Massive.
I think everybody here probably does. I mean, me specifically?
Yeah, you specifically, because I think you...
I've played, I'm like a gaming addict. I've played my whole life. I tend nowadays, I used to play a lot of role-playing games, MMOs. I played pretty much everything that's come out.
Mm-hmm.
But I don't really gravitate quite as much that way anymore. But I have played World of Warcraft and all that stuff and enjoyed it at the time.
Yeah.
Now I kind of orient more towards sandbox games, and typically survival-type sandbox games like 7 Days to Die, Empyrean, kind of make your own fun. Actually, one called Kenshi, but typically sandbox game. I like kind of building games. I like base building games and sandbox games. I like to build stuff.
Okay. And also talk to us about your comic book credentials, because I know you're a comic book, or you were a comic book collector, right? From an early age.
Yeah, no, I still have. I really have a lot of comic books. I don't buy them anymore. I haven't bought them for a long time, but I do have thousands of comic books. And back in the day when I was before the San Diego Comic Con kind of got co-opted into more of a kind of a movie and pop culture thing, and it was really about comic books. People like Mark and I and Ethan, we'd all go to the comic conventions and we'd actually try to fill out our collect. You'd go with a list of things that you wanted to try to find, issues that you'd want to find. And my sister actually works for Marvel.
That's right. She has one of the last interviews with Stan Lee before he passed away, right?
Yeah, she actually was. She actually went to the front page of Reddit a while back. Before Stan Lee died, she had a picture with him and an interview with him on the red carpet, which was his last one. And she actually went to the front page of Reddit, which is like a life dream for nerdy people.
Yeah, which is interesting because your sister does not qualify, in my opinion, as a nerdy person per se. You were always diehard nerdy guy, and she was not so much, right?
Yeah, and it's interesting because she's actually got some books published now. She's got some kind of women, kind of female perspective, kind of female superhero stuff, kind of female perspective on superheroes, and kind of some origin stuff. And so she just printed her second book, and I think on that subject matter. And she also hosts a Marvel show, and she does interviews, and she does the red carpet premieres. She was just out in Hollywood a couple weeks ago for the red carpet premiere of Captain Marvel.
Okay, well that fits within this episode because we're going to touch on both Captain Marvel and Alita Battle Angel. Talking about the strong female superheroes right now.
Wow.
But anyway, let's go to Andrew from Texas and see what's interesting things he's done lately.
Well, I'd like to touch Captain Marvel, but I didn't.
Gross.
Wow, so it's something that tickled my fancy, I believe were the words you said.
If you know what I mean.
Yeah, I mean, this is a family podcast, for Christ's sake.
It used to be. It used to be until you guys got on this thing.
Well, I know I'm going to talk later about what I've watched and what I've played and all that nonsense, so I'll just say I'm in between classes right now, and I actually got 100% in the last class I was in working on my master's, so...
Nice.
Dude, we're not here to stroke your ego. I mean, congratulations.
That's, well, I mean, I got my fancy tickled. There you go.
So that was your interesting experience lately? Your pickle was fancied, or whatever?
Yeah, my fancy was tickled by my class. But yeah, I've also, since then, I've got, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, I've played 5 different games, I've watched a lot of TV, watched a couple of movies, so I'm binging everything before class starts up again next week.
All right. Well, we'll hit all that in a bit. We're going to go point by point and discuss all that stuff. So now let's go to Mupi. Do you have any interesting experiences that you had lately?
Does this have to be gaming or
anything. Talk about whatever you want.
All right. Well, I was riding this horse, and she's kind of a brat. But I was riding her and she ran off with me.
Did you make it back?
No, yeah, I think I'm still alive, but yeah, she ran off with me and it was scary, but we're alive.
Where did she run off with you to?
We were closed in a pen, and she kind of lost control. Uh-oh. But there was another rider in there with me, so this pony is running like crazy with this other horse in there, and it's kind of chaotic. But
so you guys almost crashed?
Yep.
Oh man.
It's all good.
That would be scary, no?
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Yeah. All right. Well, how about Josue? Do you have anything exciting for us other than work, and more work?
Man, this is pure work.
I didn't see that coming.
Yeah, but really, I've been doing the same thing, like playing the same video games, Pokemon Go, everything that is like Pokemon related, everything that is like AR on the cell phone, because I barely touch my computer anymore.
Really?
It's really crazy.
Oh, because you have the carpal tunnel thing, right? You have a problem with your wrist or something?
I did had it, and when I had it for a really long time, I had to recover, so I stopped. But now that I'm better, I haven't touched it again in a while.
Did you have to have surgery?
No, not really. What they prescribed was like just having basically like a tourniquet in it, and I had it for a really long time. And now that I'm better, I'm just not going back into the actual PC gaming. But everything that is mobile, I've been really active on.
Okay, but that happened because you were playing too much World of Warcraft, right?
No, not only that, like everything that is first-person shooter and all that.
Okay.
Yeah. But I'm better now. It's
okay. Well, happy to hear that.
One other game that I've been into is Jurassic World Live. I don't know if you guys have even tried it on the mobile. It's similar to Pokemon Go, and it's on VR. It's, if you guys like dinosaurs and stuff like that, it's really good.
So you just go around capturing dinosaurs?
In a way, it's not actually capturing. It's just getting DNA to recreate them later, and then you can fight with them.
Okay,
which is really cool.
So you grow them and then you fight them.
Right. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Yeah. So I will go next and tell you the interesting experiences lately. I went to the OwlCon, which is comic book convention here in Houston in Rice University. I went there a couple of weeks ago with my friend John, and we played D&D 5th edition for the first time. I never played that particular edition. I'm finding a weird thing. I don't know if K-Andyman can back me up or has any angle on this, but I find a lot of people are classifying D&D 5th edition as a true D&D and Pathfinder as a more strategic kind of battle simulation. But I think I have a problem with that definition, and I think that's a definition given by people that are not very well informed about what D&D is, because in my opinion Pathfinder is a lot more tied to the original Advanced Dungeons & Dragons than D&D 5th edition. To me, D&D 5th edition is kind of like when you play Monopoly and then you have Monopoly Junior. It's kind of like a nice entry to a game, a simpler way of playing things, but as we old-time gamers know, like, we appreciate complexity in gaming. Well-placed complexity, and we appreciate depth of character development and character creation, which is something that I gotta say that D&D 5th edition didn't quite have. But, I guess Wizards of the Coast has kind of like the market cornered with like Nerdist and Geek and Sundry, Matt Mercer and all those people. They're all, saying 5th edition is what you need to be playing. I'm like, not really. They're saying that you can't roleplay unless you're playing 5th edition, and I have a big, massive problem with that. I think that Pathfinder, or any system, is just a set of rules, and that the role-playing and the quality of the story and the role-playing comes with, the story that is being portrayed, not with what particular system you're using. But anyway, that's beside the point. I just went to play 5th edition for the first time. It was fine. It was easy to learn. It was kind of seamless, but a little bit too simplistic for my taste. And I also played a game called Ogre, which came out in the 80s, and I'm doing this for Ethan from California, because he asked me about it. And Ogre is a board game where you play 1 against 1, and one person plays the Ogre, which is an overpowered tank that has to cross the field from one end to the other. and the other player plays a bunch of little troops that are trying to take down the tank's guns and the tank's treads to keep the big, huge ogre tank from coming and destroying their base and making it back out. And so it's actually a pretty cool game, and there's very different ways to play it, very different scenarios. I believe that it is now a Steve Jackson property, if I'm not mistaken. So they're coming out with little minis and expansions. You can put boards together. You can make massive boards with it. I don't know. It's pretty cool. So that's the kind of interesting stuff that we did. We also went yesterday. We played in our Pathfinder campaign yesterday, and we went to a place called Tea and Victory. And I think Andrew recommended that, right? Had you gone to that one?
Yeah, cool. How was it? I still haven't been back there since I
it was really good. It's a cafe. It's a gaming cafe, and I think it's the first one of its kind here in Houston. I haven't really seen another gaming cafe like that. I mean, there's stores, comic book stores where you can go play and you can go game, but a cafe that's exclusively for gamers, that's a first. I mean, that's an idea that I had. I don't know if I told you about the Orkan Ladle on the idea I had to have like a tavern where people would come in and play games. Well, this is kind of like what it is, but it's like a coffee shop. But they also have like unique beers and stuff like that. My only complaint is that maybe they place a little bit loud and they have music playing in the background, which is kind of weird when you have a place where people need to communicate with each other when they're playing board games. And when you have loud music playing in the background, it's kind of hard to talk to people. So I have a group of 11 players for the Pathfinder campaign, and for me to make my voice heard so that everybody can follow my adventure was a little bit hard yesterday. But overall, we had a lot of fun, and it's a really nice place. So I'm gonna go ahead and put in the link in the description for the podcast. I'm gonna put the website for Tea and Victory here in Houston. But
did you eat while you
guys? Oh no, we ate, we drank. The other thing that the food is excellent, the beer is excellent.
Okay, cool. My
only gripe is that maybe the beer is way overpriced.
Oh yeah.
And it wouldn't be overpriced if they didn't serve it in such small glasses. I feel like the price they were giving me should have been the beer for the price for a pint and not a small glass of beer. $12 for a small glass of beer is not what I want. I know K-Andyman probably pays that in LA, but here in Houston, $12 for a glass of beer is not what we want to be paying. So
down here in Houston, we got lower prices.
Come on down. So
no.
All right. Well, that's my little soapbox of what I've been doing or experiences lately. We're gonna go on. Does anybody have any books that they want to talk about or any website mentions? Anything they'd like to mention in general? Anything they're reading? No. Okay. Well, I was just gonna mention a little podcast called the GM Word of the Week, which is a couple of guys. It's like Fiddleback and the Angry GM, I think is what they're called, and they talk about one word every week, and they go in depth, and it's a lot of like classical mythology, and they borders on some architectural stuff, and they talk about Hades. They talk about simple things like salt and how it affects the economy in real life, and every single item that they talk about, you can incorporate it into your Dungeons and Dragons or your fantasy setting campaign. So I think it's pretty informative. It's a pretty nice, nice little thing. And it's called the GM Word of the Week. I'm also going to put that link on the podcast notes. Okay, so let's move over to the topic of the week, which is, what was your weirdest gaming experience ever? And I guess I'm going to put Andrew from Texas first and see if he's got something to put in here.
Oh yeah, mine's real easy. Has anybody ever played Seaman?
Gross. Oh yeah, the one in the PlayStation 2 or the first?
Yeah, no, it was on the Dreamcast.
Oh, in the Dreamcast. Yeah.
Yeah. It had an actual microphone that you would plug into the controller, and you started with like this little tadpole thing, and then you would have to interact with it. You'd have to talk to it every day, and it would grow up, and it had like a human face. It became a tadpole with a human head.
Oh yeah, that thing was really creepy.
And it was weird because it would talk back to you. Like, it understood everything you were saying to it, and it would evolve based on how much time you spent with it, and it would interact with you and ask you questions. It was real creepy. but I was addicted to it to the point where I would tell my wife, "Hey, can we wrap this up? I got to get home. I got to talk to Seaman."
What?
Yeah, like I didn't want to miss it. It was weird. It was like I don't know. It poisoned my brain for a while. It was weird.
That reminds me, that website that you could like talk to God over the chat.
What?
I don't know if you guys know about that. No, I think it was called iGod or something like that. And you would literally like write down on the chat online, and it was like God was talking to you. And it was so funny because the thing is that he will respond to you with just awkward stuff, but in a way like he was trying to be holy. It was just weird. I think that website's not up anymore because that was back in 2000.
I think Andrew talks to God on a regular basis. He follows this guy on Twitter, right?
Oh yeah. The tweets of God are great. God's on Twitter all the time.
That's weird, man. It will talk to you and make sense.
Sense.
It was so weird. It was really weird, and it would ask you like sometimes it would ask really personal questions, which now would really freak me out. But back then it wasn't connected to anything. It was just part of the game. But man, yeah, it was weird. It was weird, but it was weird to the point where it was believable, and I kept having to get home to talk to him.
Man,
what kind of AI was that?
I don't know. It was crazy. It was so crazy. And then that thing, it would evolve to the point where it would grow legs, and then it became kind of like this weird amphibian thing, and that's when you had to say goodbye because he was big enough to go on, and that's how you beat the game. You had to get him to that point.
Oh, so it was actually a game. It wasn't just like a companion.
Sort of. Like, yeah, I guess. Like, yeah. I mean, it wasn't quite like a virtual pet, but it was somewhere in between a virtual pet and this weird, I don't know, gaming experience.
Yeah, I remember seeing that on the TV. That's when you guys were up in the woodlands, a while back.
Yeah. Long time ago. Dreamcast. Okay. Dreamcast days.
Well then, K-Andyman, do you have a weird experience you'd like to share with the group?
Probably for me, it would. I was honestly thinking about this, and I think for me it would honestly be like when we used to play. So when I was in high school, in fact, that's how I know Andres and how I kind of know a lot of my friends. Really, was from playing like pen and paper type role playing games.
Mm-hmm.
And we used to play with this guy named Dave.
Oh yeah.
And he was a friend from like earlier, like before high school, and then he kind of stayed my friend in high school. And I mean, he was just a super odd dude, and just like we have this like he'd play the game with us, but then he'd sit there and like zone out and just kind of do other things. And so we'd always have to explain to him like where we are and what we're doing, and it was just always really surreal playing with him. And then like one time he'd like try to like run a like DM a scenario,
mm-hmm.
and it would just be like he was just really out of tune. And I mean, I was kind of like that playing like at sometimes we played a game at like San Diego Comic-Con. We played like one of those group kind of a random group of strangers playing a campaign, and it's just kind of like that. There's just sometimes it's really odd.
Yeah, I had odd experiences with random groups. So my preference is to play with friends always when I go to comic conventions or whatever, but you can always, sometimes it's fun, but sometimes you really don't know what you're going to get. But yeah, I remember my first experience playing with you guys over there in California when I just got into the country was playing at Eat's house. And his parents were like ultra religious, right? And
this was back, and you have to remember, this is like people now don't even know this, but it's still that way a tiny bit, but it's not nearly like it now. But back in when we were growing up, like the late 80s, early 90s, there was a lot of talk about like D&D. Like now it's like, let's not go into it, but it's like the political stuff and religious stuff. Back then it was like D&D made you crazy and it made you kill people and blah blah blah. It was like really it was not really taboo, but fairly taboo.
But it was kind of crazy because we were there playing, and then Eid is like, shit, my parents are home. I'm like, what? And I didn't understand what was going on. You guys were running around picking everything up, acting like we were doing something else or watching TV. I'm like, what's going on? And it wasn't until then that I found out that Eid would get in trouble. As a matter of fact, we stopped playing in his house altogether, right? You guys would come to my house or we'd go to Candyman's house to go play. Or to Mark's house, I guess, too. But anyway, let's see. Mupi, do you have any weird gaming experiences you'd like to share with the group?
Well, I don't know. I don't think I've had anything like weird happen.
What about all those weird people on Roblox?
I mean, they're weird people, but it's like they're mostly trollers, just like going around saying random stuff.
So nothing really too bad?
No, not really.
Oh, okay. What about you, Josue? Do you have any weird tales from your gaming experiences?
Well, probably the weirdest gaming experience was back when Silent Hill was like in the original games.
Silent Hill.
I just remember I was prohibited, to play that kind of game because number one, I was playing still in my dad's house, and he did not know I had the game. So I would play at night because that was the only time that I could play, hiding.
Yeah.
And it was really weird because at the same time I was playing with headphones just so that the sound would not go out. And I never experienced nothing like that before, that the sound was so damn real that I would literally thought that sound was in my room, and I would just like stop out of nowhere. I remember one scene in one of the Silent Hills that you could hear like footsteps, like if they were in the roof, and it was like somebody running.
Yeah.
And it was like you could tell that it was coming from the left to the right, like boom, 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 boom. Like that thing for me gave me a mini heart attack. So I think that's one of the experiences of my life that I was so nervous after it that it just sticks in my head. You tell me, what's your weirdest experience? That's the one that just comes to my head, man. It was just way too real.
Yeah, I remember watching Andrew play Silent Hill back in the day, and that game kind of freaked me out, and I wasn't even the one playing it.
Exactly. And there's so many things, like sound is so powerful that just the one little distortion sound going up in volume, it's just like, it makes you crazy. Like I don't know if you have played that game, but in order for you to detect the monsters, you have a radio, and the radio, the more the sound, the more the distortion is that a monster or something is nearby. So it's really crazy.
Sometimes it's just static too. There's nothing crazy about the sound, but it's still, man, it just made static so scary.
Exactly. No, and
awesome.
the higher the volume, the more stuff you will see, like reactions in the walls, like they will start bleeding, and then what the hell is going on? So yeah, that's one of the ones that stands out.
Yeah, I remember the other game that really kind of freaked me out that Andrew played was Condemned.
Ooh,
specifically because I don't like things like dolls and mannequins. It kind of freaked me out. And over there, you were like going in a warehouse full of mannequins, and those bastards would move, right? Where they would like change positions. That kind of little subtle. Yeah, and Andrew just posted a thing that's freaking me out right now. And it's like a nurse thing saying hi. And you know what? I'm gonna share my weird experience now because it's similar to this thing. Back when I was, I'm an architect, and so we were doing a project here in Texas. Somebody was gonna convert like an old convent downtown in Houston into like a hotel, and we went underneath, and this convent has been closed for years and years, and we went down, and there was like an underground corridor that connected the convent to another facility, to like a hospital, and we turned in there, and it was just myself and my business partner, and we were down taking some measurements, taking some pictures, and there's just an empty corridor that goes underneath, and there's just an empty gurney just kind of hanging there, and that gave me the creeps, because it's this old, and it's a very Silent Hill kind of feel, and it was just very, very creepy. That and I'm like, yeah, we gotta get out of here. We already got what we need. Let's get out of here. But yeah, it's weird stuff. How about Ethansito, who keeps posting pictures of Olivia Munn eating sausages? By the way, that show, Attack of the Show, was kind of weird in itself, right? So, Ethansito, do you have anything weird to share from your experiences? Other than the time that we're in Romania and he wakes up at 3 o'clock in the morning running into the courtyard because he thinks we're being attacked. We were literally sleeping one house away from the place where Vlad the Impaler was born. And Ethan had like this most vivid nightmare. I don't know if you want to describe what happened in your nightmare.
Yeah, so it was like earlier that day we had seen those people who were sword fighting, right?
Mm-hmm.
with the display, and then I had this dream that there were a bunch of people outside who were about to like storm the house with swords. So then I woke up and I'm like, they're outside and they have swords.
Yeah, he just started screaming and running around. And
You started looking for a sword so I could fight him back.
I think Mupi remembers that, right? Didn't he wake you up?
Oh, speaking of Adriana, I tend to. There's this other time in like the Cayman Islands.
Yeah.
Where I had this dream that there was a bomb underneath Adriana's pillow. So I woke her up and I brought her into the living room.
So yeah, that's a convenient place to put a bomb. I remember that. You woke us all up with that crazy thing.
Yeah.
That was funny. Okay. Did everybody go? No, Josue did go. Everybody went, right?
Yeah.
Okay, we're good. So, okay, I guess we're going to switch gears a little bit. And we're going to go with K-Andyman and to say, what are you playing? Now, I guess you kind of already talked about Space Engineers. Is there anything else you're playing, K-Andyman? Or what do you want to play next?
So, yeah, that's a good question. So, I had been playing before this. I was playing a game called Project Gorgon, which was it's an old school MMO. It was basically made by one of the developers that made Asheron's Call, which was a quite old MMO, and it had a pretty good old school feel to it. It was pretty addictive. It was pretty fun, and I still kind of sort of pop in every once in a while, but I just kind of burned out on it. I think it's just the kind of the way of MMO type games that they're a grind and kind of like the other game. You know, people basically whenever you like really get into a game, it becomes kind of a grind, and it's kind of like you know, you're like, oh, I gotta log in and do my daily, or oh, I gotta log in and like, you know, like I gotta do this or I gotta do that, and then after a while it becomes like a job. Yeah. And then eventually you like start to like at first it's like you can't get enough of it, and then pretty soon you're just like I'm, you know, like it becomes like work. It's like, oh, I've got to log in and do my chores.
Yeah,
your dailies.
That's kind of how I feel with the card games, like with Hearthstone and Elder Scrolls card game.
And that's really, I mean, like mobile games. You know, pretty much every game now is kind of like that, especially the mobile games. You know, everything is like. They need player engagement, so like they need you, you know, they basically kind of need you to log in every day and to keep you on that treadmill.
But there's plenty of games that I play and I want to play every day, but not because of the treadmill aspect of it, just because I'm enjoying the story of it. I think that we need like more story-driven stuff, but that's just me. I don't know. Okay, so let's go with let's see, where are we? Mupi, what are you playing right now? And what do you want to play?
I'm still playing Roblox because I like RP games and there are a lot of good role players on Roblox. So I like to do there. And what I want to play before I wanted to play Minecraft on that Ethan server thing. Because I would watch him and I thought it was really cool, so I might still want to do that.
The Minecraft thing?
Yeah.
Really?
Okay. What about what we did yesterday? What are you playing?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Yeah, well, I guess Pathfinder. So did you guys have fun yesterday?
Yes.
Do you want to talk about anything that happened yesterday? Like how you almost died or how a ballista almost killed somebody with a single shot?
Jade was shot with an arrow and so was Slade. And then I almost died, but I also entangled everybody, so that's fun.
Oh yeah, Adriana is a druid, so she entangled the whole board. And I like the way she plays because she doesn't play like meta, because everybody's telling her, measure out the squares and see what the diameter of your entangle is. I'm like, in real life, like let's say that fantasy was real life and you were really casting a spell. You don't have time to measure, unless you have a really good eye. You don't really know what, maybe, you know...
Yeah.
3 feet or 7 feet. What's the difference between 3 feet to 5 feet or 7 feet? And like specifically, where do you target your spell so it doesn't affect friendlies? Basically, you kind of just react to the situation and you cast it, and then what happens, happens. Which is what she did, but half of the party was saying, no, you need to target it here. Obviously, that's playing the metagame, right? You need to target here so that this circle misses us. And she's like, well, you know, we're in the middle of the battle, I'm just casting it. And she cast it, and so both enemies and friendlies started getting entangled, but it made for a very interesting, situation, I think.
Yeah.
It was a lot of fun. And then her character got beat up a little bit, but then her tiger came to her rescue and killed this bugbear or whatever, right? Or he jumped on it or something.
Yeah.
So that was fun. And, okay, Andrewsito, what are you playing? What do you want to play?
Okay, well, I played through an FMV game that we got in Humble Bundle. There's a nice little plug for Humble Bundle from last month called Late Shift.
Oh, yeah.
It's basically a choose-your-own-adventure movie. And I played through it twice, and it's kind of crazy how different it could go. And it's really good. The acting's really good. The music is good. So it's pretty high quality. I do recommend it. It's pretty good. Playing through it'll take... playing through it completely, if you don't mess up somewhere along the way, it'll take about an hour. So it's not too bad to replay it a couple of times.
Okay. And what's the subject matter of the story?
It's kind of like a crime sort of thing. Like basically, the guy works a late shift in a garage, and somebody comes to steal a car, and he ends up getting taken also, and he gets kind of pulled into this. They're gonna steal something from somebody, kind of thing. And it goes on from there. So it is pretty good.
And I should have that game too, right? Because that's a Humble Gumble that you gave me or whatever.
Yep.
Okay.
I also played through the one-shot demo they had for Resident Evil 2 on Steam. So basically, the one-shot demo is I don't know if you guys ever played Resident Evil 2 back in the day, the original game, but the story is basically exactly the same, but the game itself is completely different. It's completely rebuilt from the ground up. So I'm a huge Resident Evil fan. I've played through all of them, and the style of RE2 now in the remake is like RE4. So it's kind of over-the-shoulder perspective, much better graphics, all that kind of stuff. And this demo starts at the police station with Leon. So if anybody's familiar with the second RE, that's where you are. Nice. And you have 30 minutes, and the clock starts as soon as you start the demo. So you can either play that 30 minutes to the end of the demo, which I finished it literally like 29 minutes and 55 seconds, which is pretty crazy.
Yeah.
Wow. But I finished it and didn't die. And so I tried to restart it to see what would happen, and it literally only gave me that 5 more seconds and then stopped.
Oh, wow. So it's only a one shot?
It's a one shot. You have 30 minutes or death, whatever happens first.
Oh, okay. Cool.
So if you die, you can restart the demo, but you'll only have the amount of time left.
Oh, wow.
That you didn't play. Yeah, so it's kind of crazy. It's a really cool, crazy concept. But playing through that demo it's crazy just to see how much they changed the game. Because it's horrifying. Like the zombies are way more realistic. The graphics are crazy good. So I highly recommend that too. It's definitely high on my list now to buy.
Yeah, I was reading an article about that game, and that's Chris Redfield's sister, right? That's one of the protagonists.
Yeah, that's where Claire came first. In
that
story. Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. Does the game get harder? And does it match the difficulty at which you're playing, or can you set a difficulty for that?
They do have difficulties, I think. I played the demo, so the demo's locked. But I can tell you that it was incredibly hard. I almost died twice in just the demo. and I wasn't fighting the lickers or the hunters or any of the terrible, horrible bosses. I was just literally just 1 or 2 zombies almost took me out.
Oh, man.
Right.
And it's the old school survival, you don't have that much ammo, you don't have that much supplies, so it's more, I didn't even get the knife until halfway through the demo, so I was mostly dodging and running and hiding. I mean, it's really good. I highly recommend it.
What I read is that some of the zombies go down with a couple of shots, and some of them, you don't know how many shots it's going to take, right, to take them down?
Well, I was trying to do my RE4 technique where I would kneecap them and then run up and kick them,
and
it turns out you can't kick them. So I was running up and almost getting killed. Yeah, like I was like, oh crap! I'm trying to get away, like mashing all the buttons, trying to get the zombie off of me because I ran right up to him.
Yeah,
like an idiot. But yeah, even headshots, it was taking anywhere from 2 to 4 to put him down with nothing but headshots. So
wow,
it's a tough game. Yeah, it's really tough. And those were just basic, normal, easy zombies. So everything else is going to be that much harder. Really good. Wow. And the cutscenes also have been all redone from the ground up. So even though the story's the same, they don't look the same at all. I mean, you know how sometimes you have those rose-colored glasses where you kind of remember a game better than it actually was?
Yeah.
This is way beyond that. Like, even this, like, you can look at it and tell, oh yeah, it looked nothing like this. This is really, really good. Really good.
Cool.
So it's completely redone. It's not like a HD master or anything like that.
No.
Right.
This was, they actually, I had read about it before it came out, and they didn't have any of the original assets, so they had to rebuild it anyway.
Oh,
right.
So it's kind of crazy that they did keep the entire story. Like, the story is exactly the same, and the events that happen are kind of the same, but I remember it really well. It's one of my favorite games of all time, and I could tell you that there were a couple of things that were really different from the original. So it's kind of cool because it's still, the map is the same, like all the layout is the same, and I'm still going to the same places, but when I'm expecting something to happen and it doesn't happen, it freaks me out even more. Like, I'm like, oh crap, now what? Now I don't even know what's going to happen.
Yeah.
So yeah, it's really, really good.
Okay. So they kind of changed the tempo of the jump scares and things like that?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, and then when they do happen, I guess because it looks so much better, man, it's so much more intense. It's crazy. It's really good.
Yeah, I really want to play that. I never got to play it. I only saw you playing it back in the day. But that's
the only thing that kind of sucks is in the original game, there's basically two campaigns where you choose to start either as Leon or Claire.
Yeah.
And then halfway through the game, it switches to the other one, and then you can replay it and switch that order.
Yeah.
And in the original game, I guess what would happen is if you did certain things or left certain things behind, they would be there for the other player.
Mm-hmm.
I was hoping when they remade it, though, that they would completely change the campaign so that if you played it as Leon first one time, it would be completely different if you played it as Claire the second time. But it's not. It's exactly the way it was before, where it's still the exact same story. It's just the order of things changes.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Okay, cool.
So I wish they would have done a little more with that. The other three I'll just touch on really quick. I played Tesla vs. Lovecraft really quick on Steam. It's a twin stick shooter, basically. It's really fun. It's really simple. I've read that the game only takes a couple hours to play all the way through if you want to play all the way through it. I only played a few matches and it was pretty fun. It's basically it's a nonsense game where you just use your thumbsticks and shoot at everything. It reminds me of like what was the game show game?
Smash TV.
Yeah, it's a lot like Smash TV. So it's like the map is a closed space, and you're just kind of moving around and making sure that you don't get cornered and killed. But it's cool because there are a lot of weapon upgrades and a lot of abilities and that kind of stuff. The other thing, XCOM 2. I am currently on the last mission. I've played through all the DLC. Which, if anybody wants to play XCOM 2 and hasn't played it yet, I highly recommend not playing vanilla XCOM 2 and just starting with all of the DLC built in, because it's all incorporated and it makes the game a lot better.
But that's your semi recommendation for the first XCOM, right? For the
and the same thing with that one, the Enemy Within.
Enemy Within, yeah.
Right.
Yeah, because I learned my lesson that time because I played the vanilla version first and then played it again with the DLC, and it's exactly the same game. It's just the DLC's mixed in. So it's the same with XCOM 2. I don't recommend just starting with vanilla and just go straight for the DLC built in.
Okay.
It's an awesome game. They totally overhauled almost everything from the original. So the gameplay is basically the same. You have to be really strategic in how you move and plan out where you're going to position everybody, but the bones of the game are really different, and it's something you should check out. It's really cool.
Okay.
Lastly, Division 2. I played Division 2. I'm a huge fan of Division 1. I don't know if you guys have played it. It's a looter shooter. The first one was in New York, and you're just basically running around shooting things and getting better loot the whole time to build your character up. The second game plays exactly the same. It's not rebuilding anything from scratch or anything, but the mechanics outside of the shooting is completely different. So you're rebuilding settlements, and the story is really different, but it's in DC. So everything you can think of DC is rebuilt one-to-one. It's really great, but I'm having a lot of technical issues with it, so I would recommend people wait until maybe the first DLC comes out. And by then, they'll probably patch the heck out of it.
You're saying that's a problem with the PC servers right now?
Yeah, I don't know. I haven't played it on the consoles, so I don't know if the consoles are having some of the similar issues. But I can tell you, I turned it on yesterday morning, and I put in probably about 5 hours into the game.
Yeah.
Yesterday morning, I turned it on, and I was 25 in line in a queue to get into my own solitary game. I'm not playing with anybody.
What?
So,
Yeah,
and it's because it's you can't play offline. It's an online only game, and the only time you see people is when you're in safe houses. So if you're out of the safe house and you're not in the PvP area, then you are really playing this game solo, but it has to be connected. It has to be online.
That's really weird.
Sucks.
Last time I was in a queue to play a game was 10 years ago, over 10 years ago, World of Warcraft, and that's about it.
That's why I think there's just some technical issues that they're working through on their servers, because and it went really quick. Like I went immediately from 25 to 5 and then I was in. But it's still weird to see that, right? Like when you're trying to play a game by yourself and you see, you're 25th in line. I mean, it's kind of weird.
Yeah, in line for what, man? I'm playing on my own.
I'm not a fan of that.
And I played the game for maybe about an hour and a half or 2 hours, and I had it optimized. So I have a 1080 on my laptop. I have an Alienware laptop, and I had everything completely optimized, and it played like butter. Like there was no problems at all, no lag, nothing. And then about an hour and a half in or so, my sound went out. So I already knew something was going to happen. And then sure enough, the first or second firefight I got in, I just completely froze. And by the time it unfroze, I was dead. So it becomes to the point where I can't play it. It's completely unplayable because of the lag.
Yeah.
And it's weird because sometimes I'll play for like another 30 minutes or so when that starts happening, when my sound goes out.
Mm-hmm.
And then like 30 minutes in, I'll just be running down a street. There's nothing going on, but all of a sudden I'll hear a gunshot. I'll be like, oh crap, I think that gunshot was like from 30 minutes ago.
Oh, wow.
So, and so I know the crash is coming. I know eventually I'm going to freeze. So, it gets to the point where I just turn it off because I literally can't play it.
That's
wow. That's annoying.
And I've gotten to the point too where I turn the graphics all the way to low and I put the sound on headphone sound and like literally just completely handicapped my system. And the same things happen. Like it'll play okay for a while, and then all of a sudden my sound goes out, and I know that's when it's coming. It's having to do more with their servers than with my system.
Yeah. Well, if you're running into problems, I'm normally the IT guy around here, but my IT guy is normally Candyman because he knows a lot more than I do. So, if you're having PC problems, Candyman can probably find an answer for you.
Well, they did patch it yesterday, and like I said, I played for an hour and a half or 2 hours with no problem. But I'm playing alone, and an hour and a half or 2 hours in, all of a sudden the same thing happens. So, it's definitely, it's not my system. It's got to be their servers.
Yeah,
so it's just a weird, it's a weird issue they're going to have to build through on their servers.
Yeah, that's.
But aside from that, the game itself, if you like Division 1, it is more of that. It's pretty awesome.
Yeah, that's going to link to our topic later about cloud gaming. Do we really think that it's ready here and now? When you're trying to play a multiplayer game and you actually have the game installed on your computer, but you're just trying to play a multiplayer game and you're having issues, imagine if you're trying to play the full game as a cloud gaming service.
Well, and I was in the beta for Project Stream, so I'm looking forward to that part of that talk. I've got a lot more to say about that.
Okay. Well, let's move over
that's far away from Ubisoft.
Let's move over to Josue and see what he wants to play next.
Well, playing next, the brand new mode of Battlefield 5. And the one that's called Firestorm. It's basically gonna be like their way of battle royale. But the way that they're taking it, it's really Battlefield. It's not gonna be exactly the same like all these other battle royale games. There was even a brand new trailer going on, which they show a lot of the different things that are gonna be a really good game changer. There's even helicopters and it looks really good. Like if you're a fan of Battlefield, like I am, at least they're bringing something that I think is gonna be really different from all the others. And that's what I'm looking forward to play.
Do you think it's gonna trump this new fad of like Fortnite and what was the other Apex Legends and all that stuff?
Right, I did try Apex Legends. It's really interesting. I haven't played it that much. I can say I liked it more than others. But originally I loved more PUBG than any other.
Yeah.
Then I saw Fortnite. I really did not like it that much. I continue with the Call of Duty, but it was running really weird on my computer, so I just was not that motivated.
Yeah.
But the concept of it, it's really fun. I don't know if you guys have play any Battle Royale right now, but it's really good when you have friends with that. You can really be tactical with it. And remember, Battlefield is going to be a real big changer because you can actually destroy houses. You can, they're inside the house. Okay, blow it to hell.
Take out the cover,
Yeah, come on, let's take out their cover. And you can see that they're bringing even like air support. I saw in the trailer that they, like the other team, they just like fire a flare. And what happened was that it was an air support bringing down hell into in a house. So, that's going to be really cool. And their way of putting the circle that is shrinking down is by like fire, literally fire. Like a forest fire kind of way. Yeah,
that's kind of
interesting. That makes sense. It makes sense because it's like, like if it's some kind of fire coming into you, of course you're gonna run through it, right?
Yeah.
It's really cool. If you guys haven't seen the trailer, go ahead and look at it. That's
okay. We'll check it out.
I'm waiting on that. Yeah.
And then let's go to Ethansito and see. Can you tell us something about Sunless Seas?
So your mic cut out?
No, you're good.
No, your mic cut out.
Right now?
Before you finished.
Oh, here, let me repeat the question or the thing because otherwise you won't record on my end. Do you want to talk about Sunless Seas? I know that you've been playing some of that, and I have that game, but I haven't played it enough, so I was wondering what your thoughts were on that game.
Oh, yeah. It's a lot of fun.
Which one? What is it about?
Sunless Sea. So it's kind of like London got eaten by bats or something, and then it's underground now.
It's a Lovecraftian theme.
Yeah. So there's like a sea underneath the world, and you're playing as like a captain, and you get to choose what your wind state is. So it's kind of fun in that sense because it's not something you see very often, where you get to choose how you win. And then I guess you just explore the sea, and you see a bunch of weird Lovecraft stuff.
It's like stories, right? You find like people and they tell you stories, and people are going insane and stuff like that, kind of.
Yeah, like this one island I found. There was like a group of rats and then a group of hamsters that were fighting for control of the island. And then I had to make decisions based on who I chose to help. So yeah, that was funny.
So is it a roguelike? Do you have to die and keep going, or can you just play the whole thing without dying, or how does it work?
So you can play the whole thing and win, but you're probably gonna die because the game is unforgiving, and sometimes you get trapped in the middle of the ocean with no fuel and no food, and you have to sacrifice your men to some strange god in the hope that he'll help you.
Oh my god.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's happened a couple times.
That's kind of cool. And it's a very like serene game, right? You're just like navigating at night, and it's very quiet and stuff. It's got a very good atmosphere.
What's that game called?
Sea monsters.
Sunless Seas.
Sunless Seas. Sounds awesome.
Yeah, the same company is coming up with a game called Sunless Skies or something.
That one actually already came out.
Oh, it already came out? Okay. But I would play Sunless Seas first, I think. Get into that atmosphere first. So that's good. Is there any other games you want to talk about, Ethansito?
Well, they announced that the Master Chief Collection is coming to PC.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, I heard that.
And that includes ODST, doesn't it?
It does.
Ooh. That's something that I might be really interested because I have never been an Xbox guy, and I did had the Xbox, but I had it way too late in order for me to enjoy all the sequels of Halo. But I might give it a try because it's really interesting. At least I enjoy a good story, and from what I heard, it's a good story. If you guys clarify me on that, but, right? Is it?
Yeah.
So
the first, 3 games definitely.
Halo 2 is definitely, I think, the flagship for me. And that was the most popular one. Especially, I guess, back then for multiplayer, Halo 2 was the bastion. I remember when they were closing down the servers for Halo 2, and there were 2 guys left, and they didn't want to log off, because the second that they logged off, that's when they were going to erase the server and terminate the game, basically. And they lasted there for like 3 days. They were like playing all night. I don't know how many hours they went without sleep. They were constantly logged in there, trying to stop them from terminating the server for Halo 2.
Wow.
Pretty funny. I still have my platinum copy of Halo 2 for the Xbox 360. It's pretty cool.
Oh, wow.
And then I know that Andrew beat ODST on hard level. He probably beat all those games in hard level, right?
Yeah, I beat all the Halos in hard.
Yeah, which ODST was freaking impossible on hard level. I don't know how you did that. Because I tried playing... Because ODST, you're not overpowered. You're not playing like one of the Super Master Chief guys. You're playing one of the regular troopers, right? So
yeah, ODST is still... I mean, I know it's not the popular choice, but it's still one of my favorites. I just really liked it because you weren't OP. You were just a regular guy with a gun.
Story-wise, I think ODST is one of the better ones, I would think.
So I've been kind of on lately for the last, few months, I've been on a space game kick. So before I started playing Space Engineers, I was playing Astroneer, which both of these games recently left early access, which is kind of what brought them onto my radar. Astroneer was actually, it's another kind of a space base building game, but it's not combat oriented at all. The only things that can hurt you are basically like wildlife, like plants, essentially, that can like shoot spores at you and try to poison you and stuff. But it's kind of a recurring theme with the games I've been playing. It's got a bunch of planets, and it's got resources, and you can ultimately dig and you mine. To be honest with you, it's all kind of the Minecraft trope, really, to some degree. It's dig deep in the earth, get minerals, make stuff with it, and make cool things, make a base, make a spaceship. But it was surprisingly polished. It doesn't have you can play multiplayer, but the multiplayer is not quite ready. It's got multiplayer servers coming soon. But it's kind of kiddish, like in the graphics a little bit. Like it's kind of like Legos. Everything has like these locking blocks, and you can kind of piece things together.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But surprisingly, the graphics are really beautiful, and actually, it's really a fun gameplay. The problem is, I feel like I'm in kind of a microcosm amongst my friends, because I'm like one of the few people that like seems to like if there's a game where nothing will kill you, like if you could like go get a Slurpee like in the middle of your gaming session and come back and you're still alive, like a lot of people feel like that's like not an interesting experience, but to me I actually kind of enjoy those building games where you can just relax and dig and build.
Right.
That's
Is it like 7 Days to Die in a way that graphics are good, but you can tell that it's meant because of the construction and all that.
I mean, to be honest with you, I love 7 Days to Die. It's it's probably still my most played game on Steam. I think I've literally got almost 2,000 hours in it. I honestly think 7 Days to Die has. This is just a person. Well, so I heard actually there's a lot of improvements that have come out for that game.
Mm-hmm.
But in general, I think the graphics in that game are honestly fairly terrible.
Yep.
But it's a really, really fun, replayable sandbox game. It's one of those games that you can like. It's a game you can't win, and yet it's a game that you'll like keep playing. You'll just keep starting out and doing it. They just released a new version, and it does have some new vehicles, including it's got like a 4x4 truck that can seat multiple people. It's got a motorcycle that's really, really, really crazy fast. It's got a gyrocopter, which unfortunately I haven't unlocked yet because you have to be level 120, which is a significant amount of work.
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
and there's a mod called Ravenhurst that's pretty slick. They fixed a lot of the things that I kind of felt like the game. The game. This is kind of a constant thing with games where the games kind of might go away from the way that like the creators might have a vision that may not coincide with that of the players. And 7 Days to Die in particular is very successful because it has a really strong modding community. And so there's a mod called Ravenhurst that tunes a lot of the things, including the world generation and a lot of factors. And it really tunes it up and makes it like more balanced and more playable, and kind of rolls back some of the design decisions that were made that are kind of a departure from the better old days.
So let me talk about a couple of games that I've been playing. I finished, Andrew last podcast said I should probably try Sundered. It's another Lovecraftian game, like a platformer, Metroidvania kind of. And I went through that game, I think that was about 22 hours or something. It wasn't too bad. And it was actually pretty good. You go through the game and you acquire powers, and you can choose to like embrace the dark side of the powers, the Lovecraftian powers, the Eldritch powers, or you can choose to depend on your human instincts and powers, which I recommend at least corrupting some of yourself to be able to beat the game a little bit easier. I'm also started playing Valkyria Chronicles. I didn't know anything about this game really. I thought I was playing Fire Emblem. I got the two games crossed. Fire Emblem was an older game on the... Was it Nintendo or was it on the Wii or was it on Xbox? The Fire Emblem games.
I think it's a Nintendo DS, right?
Yeah, they were basically DS games, but they were solid.
But for some reason, I thought Fire Emblem and Valkyria were the same thing. I don't know why. Maybe because they're like anime and turn-based, whatever. But anyway, Valkyria Chronicles centers around like a fictitious world that is based on our very own world. So it's got a map that looks kind of like where it's Russia and Europe. And so the empire is kind of like Russia, and then you're one of the states in Europe. They call it Europa. And so you're little place called Gideon or something like that, and then you recruit your little army, and then you're just kind of like peasants, fighting. You're kind of militia. You're not actually the army, but you're the militia, and so you're there fighting off the empire. And your tanks are not as strong, so you have to maneuver correctly to kill their stronger tanks. And I'm to the second to the last mission right now. I'm almost finished with the game, but I'm really loving this strategy because you have 5 different classes. You have an engineer who refills your bullets, who fixes the tanks, who disables mines. You have like a lancer, which is somebody that has almost like a rocket launcher kind of thing that looks like a lance, and it's good against armored units. You have a shock trooper, which is kind of like the stormtrooper from Star Wars, kind of. They have similar helmets. And so you got a submachine gun, and so you fire a lot, and you're deadly at a short range. Then you have a scout that moves a lot, and then you can just take pot shots at the enemy, and it's good for seeing what's ahead. And then you have, I think there's one more in there somewhere, a sniper, which I always love snipers, and I like sniping in games. So you just position those guys carefully, and start clearing out the field. So and you actually end up using all of them. You'd think that you wouldn't use the engineer, but the engineer can double as a scout sometimes because they move fairly quickly, and they have good reaction. So I don't know, I'm enjoying the story a lot too. It's a lot of like I guess they mix a little bit of Nordish mythology in it, in the sense that it's called Valkyria, so they kind of have like the Valkyrie people that are descendants of maybe the Valkyries that have special powers. And the plot has yet to be revealed to me, the ultimate plot. But I'm actually enjoying that game a lot. I'll probably buy the next one, which is Valkyria 4, right? But I want to ask Andrew, Valkyria Chronicles, this is not the first game, right? This is like the third game, maybe?
I don't know much about the relaunch, the one they just did, but I from what I thought it was a remake of the original first game.
Okay.
But I'm not sure.
But you said those were on handheld or what? The original games?
No, the first one, it was a PlayStation exclusive. I think it was on PS2 actually.
Okay.
The first Valkyria. Okay. I think that's where I had the original when it came out. I think it was on PS2.
Okay, but word to the wise, this is a port to PC. This is not originally coded for the PC. This was a port, and you can see it evidently in the way that you control the tank. A lot of times the tank with the WASD keys and the mouse will become kind of clumsy, and so you waste a lot of your movement in the tank figuring out how to make it move. That's really my only complaint of the game. But anyway, so technically this is game 1, you think? Valkyria?
Yeah, I think so. And then I think I told you last time the second one was what was the handheld before the Sony
PSP?
Blank. Yeah, the PSP. The second one was exclusive to the PSP, which is really weird.
Oh,
okay.
And then the third one only came out in Japan. It never came out here.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and then the fourth one, I think it's already been out in Japan, but it's gonna get ported here.
Well, I think it's already available on Steam. The fourth one.
Oh yeah, it could be.
I think it is. Do they say if that continues the story from the one I'm playing, or is that continued from the story from the Japanese one?
From what I think I remember, it's been a while since I looked at them, but I don't think there's like a direct connection in the games.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't think you'll see the same characters.
Oh, okay.
But it's more just the same world, I guess, but different stories in the same world.
Well, I'll definitely...
Kind of like Final Fantasy.
Yeah. I'll definitely check it out. I mean, I'm loving this game. So I love... It's relaxed, but there's a good amount of strategy. Your people can die permanently if you're not careful. So it's... I don't know. It's kind of interesting. And then I also I'm starting a playthrough through Pillars of Eternity. I just built my character, and I'm probably like an hour and a half into the game. So I'll probably have more to talk about Pillars of Eternity the next time. It's similar to... It's kind of like the spiritual successor to Baldur's Gate 2 or something. Or the old isometric games like Neverwinter Nights and, what was that? Planescape Torment? Candyman, did you ever play Planescape Torment?
Planescape Torment is honestly one of my all-time most favorite games.
Yeah?
It was just one of the best games that's ever been made. It's definitely the pinnacle of like the BioWare, the old BioWare era. It was one of the, back in the day, like I think now BioWare's latest game is Anthem, but
Yes.
back in the day, they had just incredible games, including even really like Dragon Age Origins. But
Yeah.
Torment was just an incredible. It was funny. It was heartfelt. It was. I mean, I remember laughing more at that game than many games I've played. And then in the end, it actually had a when you kind of find out the reveal of the story, it actually had a really cool kind of message to it.
Oh, okay. So is that when you're traveling? Because that's based on the D&D Planescape thing, right? So you're traveling between different planes of existence? Is that the basis of the game?
Not really. So in that one, so basically you're the nameless, and essentially you're just basically someone who can't die.
Mm-hmm.
You're like, I think you're technically a planeswalker, but basically you just can't die. So every time you die, you come back to life.
Okay.
And it's really fascinating because they actually tied it into the game really well. So for example, in that game when you died, it would actually, so basically you had amnesia. This was the whole thing. So every time you died, you come back to life, but you had no idea who you were or why you were or what the deal was. And so you had to, your whole story was basically to reveal who you are and like why you can't die.
Yeah.
And ultimately you like go through the world and you kind of like find people that used to know you, and you find like things that you left behind and things, even like things you left behind for yourself. But one of the mechanisms in the game is actually when you die, sometimes it would trigger a memory. So it's literally a game where you're supposed to die. Like it's encouraged to die because it would trigger your memories, and ultimately you're trying to discover who you are.
Okay. Oh, I just looked it up on Steam. It looks like you own this game on Steam. There was like an enhanced edition or something?
Yeah, they like many games now, a lot of these old games, people have kind of like bought the rights and re-released them. I mean, a lot of these old games, including like I think even, especially on good old games like Baldur's Gate and stuff like that, a lot of these can be repurchased. But yeah, I thought it was really fun. It was really well done, and the kind of the hook at the end of the story really got me. Like I really felt like it was when you find, and I certainly wouldn't spoil it, but when you kind of find out the whole deal, you're just kind of like, wow, that was a really good. It's kind of like a little bit similar to what was it, KOTOR?
Knights of the Old Republic.
But it kind of had a twist, something like that at the end, but not the same.
Okay, cool. So you would recommend it for a person like me that liked the original Baldur's Gate games?
If you loved like Baldur's Gate and the similar, like the old BioWare games back when they were really really good, when they were like they were basically all Infinity Engine games, and so was this one, except they actually did a really interesting thing with it because they actually they kind of ripped off like Final Fantasy a little bit, like the more modern Final Fantasy. Like they had like certain abilities, kind of had like it was essentially D&D like spells, like Meteor Storm and stuff like that, like the old school like D&D second edition spell. But they actually did like wind up animation, so like they'd actually show like meteorites coming down and stuff. Like they'd kind of do the spell wind up stuff like from Final Fantasy. So they kind of incorporated that a little bit. I really thought it was a very magical game and a really good story and really well written.
Okay, well that sounds good. I think I'll add that to my wish list then. And then on the stuff that I kind of want to play next, I was thinking about Monster Hunter. If anybody will hop in with me and play a Monster Hunter at some point. But I figure by now they should have gotten all the bugs out, right, from the PC version.
I'd jump back in. I would definitely jump back into that game. It was a lot of fun.
Okay, because
I've never played it, but honestly, it sounded intriguing to me. I'd be interested in trying it. Like you said, when it came out, I had friends on Steam that would play it. And, like, finally, I asked this guy, like, he was literally like playing it like every 30 seconds.
Yeah.
And I was like, dude, you're spamming the crap out of me. Like, what is going on? He's like, oh yeah, the game's really buggy. Like, it keeps kicking you out. Blah blah blah. It's like, okay, I don't need to play that yet.
Yeah. Yeah, I know they were ironing all this stuff out. I remember we tried to play on the Wii. We tried to play Monster Hunter, but the Wii didn't have really good connectivity for like multiplayer. I guess because they were trying to protect the kids from like meeting strangers online or something. Is that right?
Yeah.
And so it was really hard to play Monster Hunter with friends, and that's the whole point of playing Monster Hunter, right? Because you need help taking down this huge beast, I guess. But you can still play it single player, right, or no?
I played mostly by myself when I played it on the PS4.
Okay, and
there were a couple times where I would recruit people to help me, or I would go out to help somebody else because some of them are just ridiculously hard. Some of the bigger monsters.
Yeah.
But for the most part, I played alone, and it's still either way, it's fun. It's a really good game.
Okay.
If you play by yourself, it's more kind of loot grinding, getting the equipment you need to build better weapons and better armor and that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
But if you're playing with friends, it becomes more of a social thing. So that's equally rewarding, whether you're playing by yourself or playing with other people. It's a great game.
Okay. So I guess we can transition now from games to like movies and TV. Does anybody want to jump in and tell us is there anything exciting they're watching right now?
Well, I don't know about exciting, but I watched the second season of Future Man.
Oh, you did? I haven't even finished the first season, I don't think.
Yeah, I watched it. That's about all I could say.
Was that good, huh?
Yeah, it's good for what it is. I had a good time with it.
But a show that's really impressing me right now that I didn't think I was going to like as much is The Orville. Like, season 1, yeah, it's okay, but I thought it was just going to be a big spoof. But season 2 is actually kind of serious, man. Like, it's
I'm
legit.
A huge
it's like
Orville fan.
It's like a legit show now. Like, this is like even better than, the other Star Trek shows or whatever, right? Or, the ones that I've watched anyway.
So the only reason I don't talk about it here is because I know you and Eth are Star Trek fans, and Michelle has honked at me a lot about liking the Orville and trying to get her to watch it.
Well, Candyman's a big Deep Space Nine and Babylon fan, right? Stuff like that.
I used to really, I never got into. I was actually thinking about starting Babylon 5. I never watched it, but I used to pretty much watched all of the old Star Treks, except for the original series, which I actually, for some reason, a lot of people like the original. I didn't really like the original, but I've really enjoyed all of the other ones, although I haven't seen the new one. I think it's Discovery.
I haven't seen it either, yeah.
I don't have CBS All Access, and I'm not going to, I pretty much refuse. I'm kind of drawing a line in the sand. I'll pay for Netflix and Amazon, and, I'm just kind of I really don't want to pay for any more services.
Are you going to spring for Disney?
Probably not. I mean, I don't think Disney has much that I need.
I mean, there's Star Wars stuff.
If anything, I think I don't know. See, I really feel like it's going into a kind of a crummy place now, because it used to be great when Netflix basically just had everything, and now literally it's getting to the point where there's going to be a Disney service and a Warner Brothers service, and you know what I mean. Every single person's going to have a service, and it's going to be just TV. It's going to be the whole reason we got into this streaming is to get away from the cable TV package thing, and pretty soon that's right where we're going to be.
Yeah, there's going to be an internet package service where you get all these channels all bundled up, right? They charge you $150 a month or some ridiculous bullcrap,
Well, the sad thing is now, instead of a cable service, everything is a service. So you have to pay for everything separately instead of pay for one thing and have everything together.
Yeah, well, at least the one thing that kind of makes me happy about it is that you can choose to not have commercials. At least in Hulu, I know Netflix and Amazon don't really have commercials, but Hulu you can have an option where you don't have commercials. That's the one thing that's why I normally never watch TV, is because I didn't want to watch commercials. I would just DVR stuff and then skip through the commercials, but even that is annoying. So it's good to have the services where you don't have commercials.
Right.
But yeah, I'm with Candyman on this one. I'm not gonna pay a nickel and dime for every single streaming service out there. Even channels like Ethansito and Nerdist are combining into some kind of pay channel on there, so you can watch little shows that they have, and I'm not that interested, It's not.
Well, the good side to it is, to be kind of devil's advocate, is all of them can't ask as much money when it gets to be so many people in the competition. So the prices for each one of them is going to go down. Is the good side of it.
But I do have a problem with like the Discovery thing. Like Candyman was saying, you're gonna pay all that money for one show. I understand if you have a lot of original content that is really interesting, like Netflix or Amazon. But if you are just paying for a service just so you can watch one show, like for example YouTube and the Karate Kid remake, which is actually pretty good, the episodes that I've seen.
Yeah.
But I haven't finished it because I refuse to pay for YouTube. But if YouTube came up with enough original shows, maybe 5 years from now, maybe I would get it or whatever. But it's just too...
Well, now Jordan Peele's new Twilight Zone is going to the CBS All Access also.
Oh, so really?
And so that's the thing, is they are building a library. Everybody is.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers is also already. And Disney, obviously, they're using the same actors from the movies for their shows. So all of them are building kind of an army for you to pay your money for. The problem is, at first, all of them are going to be overpriced. So
yeah, exactly.
Like I said, nobody's going to do that. And I was one of those guys that did like the little free intro for CBS because I wanted to watch the show.
Yeah.
And I watched the first 2 or 3 episodes, and the worst part about it is the show is really good. But I'm not going to continue to pay for it.
Yeah,
so
I heard it's pretty good.
We just didn't watch it. That's the thing that really sucks is all of these networks, they're putting a lot of money. They're investing a lot of money and a lot of time into quality programming. So all of them are going to have really good stuff. It's just, like you guys said, who wants to pay 3 or 4 different streaming services just to watch 1 or 2 shows? You know what I mean?
Well, and I think the problem is this is the unfortunate thing. A lot of people, what it's really, I feel it's going to do, it's going to push people to piracy, because people were saying already, you know, like even people that, like, I read a pirating forum, and I honestly don't pirate just because it's too much trouble. Like it's too much trouble to worry about viruses and ransomware, and it's just not worth it for me. But I follow the scene because I'm interested in it, especially because I do, you know, IT security for a living. And a lot of pirates are like, yeah, you know, like I pirate all the stuff on Netflix, I pirate all the stuff on Amazon and da-da-da-da-da, but I pay for Apple Music because it's just too convenient. And that's the kind of the core problem with all this stuff. If you make it to the point it's cheaper and easier to pay for it than to steal it, then people are happy to pay you for it. But when you get to the point where you're nickel and diming them like this, I really do feel like, you know, that they're really just pushing a lot of people into piracy. Because ultimately, if you just want one thing, you're just going to pirate. You know, people that are, you know, more ambitious than me are just going to pirate it. And for people like me that have more than enough stuff to do and enough shows to watch and 300, 400 games in my Steam library I haven't played, and getting like 12 games a month from Humble Bundle that I haven't played. You know,
yeah,
I don't need to steal anything because I've got more than enough content.
Yeah, and you hit the nail right on the head too, because a quality VPN is only a fraction of the cost of one of these subscription services. So you can hide yourself and torrent all this stuff until the world ends, basically.
Yeah,
like Josue was also surprised that I never saw The Big Bang Theory, because I guess Big Bang Theory is one of the shows that is responsible for bringing Dungeons and Dragons into the forefront of popular culture. Where we used to hide that crap back in the day because people would think you're a weirdo if you play role-playing games. Now it's the mainstream, and now everybody wants to do it, and it's all great, right? And part of it is because of the Big Bang Theory. The funny thing is that I've never seen one episode of The Big Bang Theory because it was never on Netflix or anywhere. And I'm also not hot on pirating things for different reasons. I just don't like to deal with that. And also, like Candyman, I have too many other things to do that I don't feel like I have to be sitting there and pirating stuff where I have so much content otherwise. Plus, hell, Andrew, Candyman, and I could have probably written The Big Bang Theory on a weekend, you know? So that's kind of our lives anyway. So it's not like we need to watch a show about what we have done for years or whatever, you know? But
you really need to watch it, man.
I hear you telling me that every time we meet. But anyway, does anybody want to talk about this cool show that I just discovered that has been around for a while called Into the Badlands? No?
I've had it in my queue since actually I was recording it on my DVR when the first season started and never got around to watching it before I got rid of my cable. And then I've had it in my queue since it came on Netflix, but never started it. So It's in my long backlog list of things I want to get to eventually. It looks great.
I've just seen the first episode of season 1, and it blew me away with the choreography of the fighting. It sold me on it right away. Choreography, the way they fight. Like it's old style kung fu fighting, which is awesome. So I really like that, and it looks like the plot's gonna be great. So that sounds good. And then I think Mupi and I have been watching Umbrella Academy, right? And we've been watching Death Note also. So
Ooh, Death Note, I love it, man. Death Note.
Yes.
yeah, Death Note's pretty cool.
I am Justice.
What's that?
I am Justice.
Oh, you were Justice. Yeah, she wants me to cosplay with her at the next Renfest.
I want him to be light. I mean, L.
What?
Man, that.
I want you to be L.
Oh, she wants me to be L. But in order to be L, I have to go barefoot everywhere and like wear an oversized long sleeve sweatshirt or something, and then wear a wig, and
No.
I don't know. We'll see. We'll see what happens with that. So, anybody else want to talk about a show that they're watching? That they want to watch?
So the one I've been kind of watching the most, I've actually been kind of watching, so I used to watch a lot of Adult Swim, years past.
Yeah.
And I've kind of gotten back into it, and they've got a lot of, they replay a lot of the old, kind of the good Fox, I consider them kind of good animated shows, like Family Guy, Bob's Burgers, American Dad, which I think is underrated. I actually think that's a pretty smart show. But the one I'm really grievously behind the curve here. So just like probably around Christmas time, between like Christmas and New Year's, when I was in kind of a lull and I was bored, I finally started watching Rick and Morty.
Oh yeah,
And,
that show is gold, man. That show is freaking genius.
I'm kind of
So
I'm
good.
kind of like anti-pop culture. Like I have kind of a mechanism where when something gets really popular, I refuse to do it.
Yeah.
So a lot of the time it's because I think pop culture is stupid, and I feel like a lot of things that people like are kind of overblown and stupid, and so most of the time I miss out on things that I would just really want to miss out on. But in the case of Rick and Morty, I kind of shot myself in the foot because it's just amazing, and I just been watching the living hell out of it. And I definitely think the best episode I've seen so far is Pickle Rick.
Oh yeah,
I know
Pickle
my
Rick.
God.
that one like 5 times.
Andrew just put a picture
so
of Pickle
good.
Rick on the thing. Yeah, Pickle Rick is so awesome. So with
And I think it was Susan Sarandon was the therapist. And it was just, I just can't even tell you just like how much I enjoyed the fighting was like, the fight stuff was amazing, and like the psychoanalytical dribble was just, it was so wonderful. I've really been enjoying it.
It's funny that you say the reasons why you didn't watch the show are exactly the same reasons that I have for not having watched it, because one of Ethan's good friends watched it, and I didn't want to let him know that I liked the show, so I didn't really watch it for a long time. I'm like, oh, that show probably sucks, because Ethan's friend likes it, then it must suck, right? So I refused to watch it for a while, and then I started watching it on my own, like at night when nobody was looking at me. And then eventually the kids caught me watching that show. So, and then Adriana just thought, Mupi thought I was weird for watching it, but that's an awesome show.
Yeah.
I guess Mupi is not too keen into that show, but I like it. The other show that I've been... Oh, go ahead.
Funny too, because there was a big controversy in Los Angeles, at least, over the... and I wasn't watching Rick and Morty at the time, but there was a big thing that many of you heard about with the Szechuan sauce, where Rick and Morty referenced that, and then McDonald's brought it back, and like the thing was, when they brought it back, like each McDonald's literally had like 40 packets or whatever of Szechuan sauce, and like it was literal like chaos, like there was like literal violence and rioting, like it was absolutely bonkers, like people were like breaking it, like people were like stealing it, and like going in and attacking the people and stealing the Szechuan sauce. Like it was a whole I can't make this up.
Oh man! So they stopped making it again, or what happened?
It turned into like a whole thing, and I think they did like a bigger batch later, and like it was crazy. Like I think they made they gave out a few bottles or something, and like people were listing it on eBay for for thousands of dollars, and Like it was a whole thing. It was really crazy.
That's pretty funny. The other show I want to talk about really quickly is The Dragon King, which the kids have been making fun of me for watching too because they think it's a little bit too kiddie. Yes, really. He's talking about The Dragon King. But The Dragon King is actually not a bad show. It's kind of similar to Avatar, The Last Airbender, in the sense that it looks really kiddie on the surface, but there's a real plot going underneath. And The Dragon King is about a kingdom that is split in half, or a land that's split in half between elves and humans. And the humans kill like their dragon guardian that keeps the humans from going into the elven realm. And the elves are like badasses. They're like really cool, really good assassins and stuff like that. So they go assassinate the king, and then the plot takes off from there. And so the underlying plot is really cool. You have to put up with a couple of like My Little Pony things, like a little dragon and a couple of pets that shouldn't even be there. But other than that, the show is actually really decent. I just finished the first 2 seasons. The second season just dropped on Netflix. I just finished that one, and it's actually a really decent show. I recommend it for anybody who likes fantasy stuff. It's really good.
My fiance just finished it also yesterday, I think.
Oh, she did.
And I wasn't not paying attention fully because I haven't seen the first season completely. But there were a few moments, and I was like, "Damn, that looks like a really good show."
Yeah.
And exactly what you said, it reminds me of Avatar: Airbender.
Yeah.
Like it's that kind of good quality.
Yeah, and it's got a couple of crappy Little Pony sequences that you kind of could do without, but other than that, the plot I think is really solid. And as long as you have a good story, I can put up with a couple of little kiddie things here and there. So
exactly.
It's all good. Okay.
Yeah.
Let me know if anybody wants to talk about any other show. Otherwise, we're gonna move on to the next topic over here. Your silence is very reassuring. Okay, so I guess we're gonna get into it now because we're gonna talk about the real stuff. K-Andyman, have you seen Alita or Captain Marvel?
Oh
You
my
know,
god.
it's unfortunate because I'd like to see both of those, but no, I haven't.
Okay, well, we're not gonna spoil anything, but I do wanna ask Andrew for his input in like kind of comparing Alita, what he thought about Alita and Captain Marvel on the surface. I know that Mupi probably liked Captain Marvel a little bit better than Alita, right?
Yeah.
And she wasn't as impressed with Alita, but my personal opinion is I like Alita better than Captain Marvel. I thought Captain Marvel was okay, but I think Alita's a stronger character. But I want to hear what Andrew thinks, because he saw both of them recently.
I think Captain Marvel is boring, and I think Alita is awesome.
Well.
That's just a brief. That's it.
That's a brief non-spoiler thing.
Yeah, I don't want to spoil anything, but I will say I'm sure Candyman, being a comic collector like I was back in the day, knows a lot about Marvel lore, and Captain Marvel pees all over Marvel lore.
Oh, really? It's not true to form?
Oh, no. None of it. Not a single drop, except for her powers.
But can you guys give us a little bit of backstory? Wasn't Captain Marvel originally, or Marvel, wasn't that a man at the beginning a long time ago?
So Marvel was a man.
Okay.
Captain Marvel.
And how's that evolved then?
Captain Marvel became a thing when there was an accident. Marvel was killed and their DNA was mixed, so she became half Kree, half human, and that's how she got her powers. So the origin is completely different. That's not spoiling anything in the movie because the movie is completely different.
Yeah, because the movie doesn't deal with any of that stuff. Of that origin,
and
basically.
Because, see, it's like to put a general blanket over one of the things that to contrast the two movies, Alita has a very strong female character.
Mm-hmm.
Without the wink wink and the nod nod and the nudge nudge through the whole movie.
Yeah.
It's just an awesome woman doing awesome things.
It's kind of like an honest character to me without a separate agenda. You know, it's just an honest character that's just doing her thing.
But behind the scenes for Captain Marvel, they wanted to push it so far that they turned Marvel into a woman, not a man.
Uh-huh.
And completely changed the history. And then on top of that, because they didn't want her powers to come from a man.
Yeah.
So,
well,
and that's one thing. And then the Kree and the Skrulls have been at war for thousands and thousands of years. They're both warmonger races. There's nothing good about either one of them at all.
Yeah.
And I won't go into how the movie changes it because it's a bit in spoiler territory, but they changed that a lot, and I think they kind of cripple both races by the way they're portrayed in the movie.
Okay.
And even a character, I don't want to go too into it, but a character that's a side character in this movie that's in some of the other Marvel movies as a villain, they kind of kneecap him too. Like he's weird. Like I don't like what they did with him, and I guess I'll talk to you a little more.
Okay. Well, I
camera,
guess once Candyman has seen the movie or the movies, then we can have a full spoily review of both of them, and we can get into the in-depth of why we like or don't like certain aspects.
One thing I will say is it's not a bad movie. It's a good movie, and I do recommend going to see it.
I mean, I enjoyed it. I mean, it was
really
entertaining. It was highly entertaining. But I will say this, which is not super spoiler. It's just like her character seemed a little bit one-dimensional, but I can understand why they wrote it that way. But I couldn't relate as much to her character as I could to Alita, which is weird because Alita is half cyborg. She's like half, or I guess she's got a human brain. But I didn't think I was going to be able to relate to Alita, and I was.
So what I told my wife on the way back in the car after watching Alita, which I watched after, I told her there was more heart and soul in a single frame of Alita than there was in over the 2 hours I sat through Captain Marvel.
Yeah, and I would agree wholeheartedly with that statement. Like, if Josue asked me, you want to go to the movies tonight, and he said, you want to watch Alita or Captain Marvel? I've watched Alita twice already. I would go see Alita a third time instead of going to see Captain Marvel a second time.
Well, and the funny thing, too, is Alita is built off of, I think there's like 7 graphic novels, right? Something like that?
Yeah.
Whereas Captain Marvel's been around since the 60s. There's been, I think, 7 different iterations of Captain Marvel.
Uh-huh.
And so if you look at the history of the two things, Captain Marvel should be much richer, but they abandoned all of that and created something brand new, which you can't fault them. It's the MCU. So they're creating it for the MCU. And they basically just did this really quickly to get her into the next Avengers movie, what it feels like.
Yeah, the only time that because I don't relate to Captain Marvel because I'm not a Marvel person myself. Like growing up in Colombia, Marvel stuff was not really available. Only DC stuff was, which is weird. And the only Marvel property that was down there was Spider-Man. So I didn't really have I didn't even know who the X-Men were or whatever. But the only way I can relate to that is in the similar way that the reboot of Battlestar Galactica took my favorite character and turned it into a woman with a cigar, and I took personal offense to that. I'm like, you can create a strong woman character without taking over the Starbuck that I grew up with and that I love. They destroyed my favorite character from Battlestar Galactica, and I'm not saying they can't be a strong woman role. I'm all good. I like strong woman roles, man. I love Wonder Woman, man. I love Aliens, all those strong women. I love that stuff, man. But when you take a character that is beloved by a group of people and then you twist it in a way and then you kind of spit on it to try to make a point, I have a big problem with that. I honestly do. I don't like agendas in my entertainment. I really don't. So, but anyway.
There are, again, for those of you who don't know, I'm a devil's advocate kind of guy. I do it all the time, whether I agree or not.
Yeah.
But there is a lot of history in Marvel especially, but in all comics, of the women heroes being secondary and basically being shoehorned to whatever man gave them their powers. So I see the argument and why they did the things, and I mean there's tons of websites out there where you can read about it, and you'll see basically why they changed Captain Marvel to be this way.
Yeah.
But it wasn't really necessary is where I'm coming from. I'm not saying it's bad at all. The movie's good, and she's going to be awesome in Avengers. It feels like this was a rush job to get her into that movie. It doesn't feel like they spent much time on the script. It's basically, and I can sum it up for Candyman before you go see it so that you're prepared. It's a buddy cop movie with her and Sam Jack high-fiving and winking at each other for 2 hours.
Yeah, honestly, that sounds a little disappointing.
Yeah, so as long as you go in thinking, this isn't the OP Captain Marvel from the comics, which you will get a little bit, but mainly that's going to be in the Avengers.
No.
Yeah, that's what I figured. So, all right. Well, are we ready to jump to the news segment?
News.
The news.
Mute Donkey
Podcast. News. I'm going to talk a second about Sniper Elite. because Andrew will be interested that there's a VR version of Sniper Elite coming out. They're remastering Sniper Elite 2.
I saw that.
And I did play through Sniper Elite 2 and 3. I own 4, and that's another game I'm going to play. It's Sniper Elite 4. Yeah. They have announced a Sniper Elite 5. And then there's a Sniper Elite version 3 for the Switch now, has been announced. So that's on the Sniper Elite news. So I want to talk about what you guys think about Stardew Valley becoming an esport.
That's just weird to me.
Well, I didn't even know that.
I mean,
that's incredible.
I mean, I've played Stardew Valley, and it's a very tranquil, very relaxing game about planting vegetables and making friends with the people in a town, you know. And you can play that game for hours. Honestly, that game is really addicting. And I could see Candyman playing that thing for years. Actually, Candyman, you had a girlfriend that gave a game to Ethansito when we met you at the Comic-Con in 2009. What was the name of that game?
Oh, yeah, Heather, probably.
Well, Heather was her name, but she gave Ethansito a game. What was the name? Moon Harvest?
Rune Factory.
Rune Factory, and you told me that
Harvest
that's like...
Moon.
What?
Harvest Moon.
Harvest Moon. There you go, Harvest Moon. And that Harvest Moon is pretty much what they used to come up with Stardew Valley, right? Is that pretty much that game in modern form? So it's just it's just a game where you can go adventuring and you unlock different locations, and then you have to grow vegetables during the proper season, and then you sell them. And then if you're trying to grow a vegetable that's not in season, you have to build a greenhouse and stuff like that. So I don't know if any of you guys have any idea how they can turn that into an esport, like throwing cabbages at each other's heads, running around and mutilating the little villagers and throwing them into the river. I have no clue how you can turn that.
I know it's a really popular game. I mean, I listen to a lot of podcasts, and almost everybody played it at some point. Everybody was talking about it.
And there's a co-op version of it now. But
I just don't see it. I just don't see it. You know, people watching that like an esport, getting all excited. All right, they just planted a whole bunch of plants. Oh yeah. You know, I don't know.
Yeah,
that's weird.
He just caught a rare silverfish. He just pulled a head or something. I don't know.
Right.
That's just weird stuff.
The cutthroat Stardew Valley.
I guess it's like a really toned down kind of StarCraft. I don't know.
I guess. Yeah. There's alien. It's gonna be what's that? The Body Snatchers. That old movie. Body Snatchers. Wasn't that the game?
Invasion of the Body Snatchers.
There you go, because that fits the theme, right? You get like an alien plant that starts making a copy of the people, and it starts taking over the whole, you know.
I'd play that game.
Yeah, that actually sounds like a cool game. And that would be competitive esport. One person plays the alien, the other one plays the farmers who are trying to keep the aliens off, and they're building like Earth defense stuff, and I think we're talking about XCOM now. But anyway. So what about, how do you guys feel about the purchases that Microsoft is doing right now, where they bought Obsidian and In Exile? And so Pillars of Eternity now is going to be owned by Microsoft, and is that going to be offered on Steam? Are we going to be forced to go onto Microsoft dumb game for Windows thing to like buy our games now from?
So the existing franchises aren't going to change. You don't have to worry about that.
Oh, okay.
So those will all stay on Steam and GOG and whatever else. Mm-hmm. It's just they're going to be creating something brand new for Xbox.
Okay, but is that going to be... Are they going to sell stuff on Steam? Because I was reading a PC interview with Microsoft and with Xbox and saying, hey, are these games going to be available on Steam or some other platform? And they kind of want to say yes, but they don't want to say yes. And in the end, they're probably not going to have it on Steam, or I don't know.
Easy answer is everything that you like and play now will continue to be available.
Yeah.
But the stuff that they create that's new, now that they're owned by Microsoft, is not going to be on Steam.
Yeah, but Microsoft doesn't have a good repertoire with PC gamers, and they don't open their source for people to mod games, and this is a big problem. And Microsoft doesn't seem to get off that high horse and let people play with their toys, man. And I have a big problem with that. And just on even though I like Gears of War and all those games, on principle, I don't want to buy anything from Microsoft. I really don't. It just rubs me the wrong way. I don't know if anybody has feelings on this matter or not, if I'm the only one, but...
No, and so my I don't know if maybe this isn't the time, but my I think we're personally, not to be like all doom and gloom or run around the sky is falling, but I think we're in kind of a dark time or arguably you could probably say this for the last 10 years. I feel like we're getting into a dark time with PC gaming, and to some degree it smells exactly like what we were talking about before, the streaming wars. We're getting into this area where everything's getting fragmented, and nobody wants to pay a cut to someone else. Just like the same thing's happening with like the Apple Store and the Google Store.
Yeah.
Like applications people are like pulling out of the stores and making their own store because they don't want to pay 30% to Google or 30% to Apple. Nobody wants to pay a slice to someone else. And so they're taking their toys and going home and they're saying, no, if you want to watch CBS, you're going to have to pay CBS. We don't want Netflix to get 30%. We want you to just pay us 100%. Everyone's trying to cut out the middleman. And so we're getting into this dark place where, every game company wants to have their own store and their own launcher and their own friends list. And that's a pain in the butt, but it's not the end of the world. But the place where I feel like we are getting into the, melodramatically speaking, the end of the world, is we're getting to this console exclusive bullshit, where people are buying games like and the core example of this right now is Epic Games, who has their game store, and they're paying companies to give them 1 year of exclusivity to their store. So if you want to, when a game comes out, if you want to play it for within 1 year of its release, you have to buy it from their store. And that's the kind of stuff where you go, well, if you want to play Halo, you need an Xbox, and if you want to play, whatever, you have to have a PlayStation 4. And I just think it's an absolute load of bullshit, and it's I really don't like it.
Well, about 10 years ago, I had a discussion with Andrew, and I told him I wish we would be in a time where there was just be a unification of platforms. Obviously, this can't happen because of competition, but what you're talking about specifically is this game that's coming out called Phoenix Point, which is a spiritual successor to the XCOM games. And it was in Kickstarter, and by the way, people that backed it didn't know that this game was going to be exclusively on the Epic Games Store, which, by the way, is owned by the people that make Fortnite, right, and all those games. And so
it's owned by the people that make Fortnite, and they've basically got God money right now because Fortnite is just a cultural phenomenon. So they're just basically throwing around money. And so to their credit, and this is the problem I have. This is the core problem they have, and I'm sorry, I kind of interrupted.
No, go ahead.
The problem is that they could be doing a good thing. So the core thing Epic does offer is that they're basically taking a smaller cut. Of the proceeds, which means the game developers get more. And I think just much like with music and other things, I don't think there's many of us that would look back and say, no, I don't want the creator of this great product to get paid, because I obviously think that people that make good games should get paid. But the problem is they're not competing by offering better prices. That's how they could compete, but instead they're cheating. They're competing through exclusivity. They're paying people to give them the only rights to distribute a game, and therefore they're not competing. They're just paying. They're not competing at all. They're bribing. They're paying the other party off to give them the win instead of competing fairly. And I just think it's a really bad look.
Yeah. No, I agree. I agree completely with that.
Same thing like with Diablo 1. I see that this is like the next segment, but I can definitely see the same thing. Diablo 1 being not on Blizzard app, but what's up with that?
Yeah, Diablo 1 being remade or recoded or rebranded and sold in good old games. Doesn't Blizzard have the rights to that, or am I wrong? Why is this not offered through Blizzard? And this is a similar thing that happened with Age of Empires back when Windows 7 came out. Age of Empires 2, which to me is one of the best real-time strategy, but maybe I'm biased. But you could not play it on Windows 7 because the game would not run. Microsoft didn't give a crap that Age of Empires 2 didn't run on Windows 7. You know who gave a crap? Steam. Steam made re-release an HD version of Age of Empires, whoever that developer was, through Steam, released it, and they made it playable across all any Windows operating system, Basically, what did Microsoft do? Microsoft turned around and tried to make quick money by doing Age of Empires Online, which was a horrible release, and it just crash landed because everybody saw it for what it was, which is a money grab. So, and they never offered any interest in like supporting Age of Empires 2 and all that stuff. And I don't know. I think that people have the wrong what is it? They're not paying attention to the right things. I think maybe they're paying attention to their board of directors, to the investors, and they're not paying attention to the gamers. In my opinion, gamers are not in charge of anything, and this is very, very evident in what happened to Activision Blizzard. I mean, what is happening? You know, gaming is being stepped on and trampled, and I don't like this. You know, it's. I mean, that's my soapbox, but I really don't know. I mean, I'm happy that Diablo 1 is here, regardless of what platform or what service it is on. What I do want is, and I know like 10 years ago, PlayStation, like Sony had a good deal with Steam, I think. They were having some cross-platform stuff, didn't they? Where they were like sharing a little bit. I don't know where that all went, because I wouldn't mind playing the new, what is it? The Last of Us. I wouldn't mind playing that on computer. I don't feel like I need to get another PlayStation to play Last of Us. I hope the next Last of Us is playable on the PS4, you know. And what's the other game that's coming out that's also on the notes
Days
here?
Gone.
Days Gone. I want to play Days Gone. I'm really excited about that game. I don't like that it's an exclusive. I wish that it would be available for everybody. And I mind it less if it's a time exclusive, but I guess PlayStation, you know, because PlayStation they sold like what, 2-1 when you compare it to Xbox One?
Way more than that. It was 4 or 5-1. And that's why Microsoft is doing all this stuff. They lost because of the exclusivities.
Yeah, and I mean, PlayStation. Granted, The Last of Us is one of the best games I've ever played in my life. Period. PC, console, or otherwise, The Last of Us is anybody that loves any kind of zombie game needs to play The Last of Us at some point in their life. That game is.
Well, and I'd say that about all of Sony's Japan Studios games. Like that's why I'm a Sony fanboy.
Yeah.
Is because their exclusives, the ones that they pay for and make themselves, are ridiculously good. If
Uncharted.
A prime example, Uncharted. If you like narrative single-player games, then Sony is where you need to go.
Yeah, and I love the Uncharted series. I've played the 3 Uncharted games, and I'm about to play the next game, A Thief's End. I haven't played it yet, but I bought it, and I have it on PS4, and I'm gonna play it. I just want to consolidate everything under one platform. That's my wish. I know it's not gonna happen, and you know but.
That'll never happen with Sony, but it will happen with Microsoft, and it's because they lost. They've completely lost, and because of that, they're in the hole. And to be honest, I thought next year they were going to sell off Xbox. I thought they were going to sell it off to Amazon, to be honest. Really? Yeah, and I thought that's the way they were going to go. But instead, they started making purchases so they can get some exclusivity. But if you look at the other entertainment industries, if you look at music and movies, so if you look at music primarily, you guys know Apple was completely closed off. If you had Apple Music or iTunes, basically, you couldn't listen to that stuff anywhere else. You had to listen to it either on an iPhone or an iPod or whatever else. You could not listen to that stuff anywhere else because they locked their system down. And the reason they did is because they had no reason to share. They were on top. Yep. But then Amazon came along, and Google did first, but really Google couldn't even touch Apple. But Amazon came along and let it so that any music you bought from Amazon, you could play on anything. It didn't matter. You can play on your iPhone. You can play on any Google device, basically your PC, any tablet, anything. So I don't know if you guys heard this, but this past week, finally, Apple threw in the towel. They're letting you use Apple Music on Android platforms now.
Oh, that's huge. Wow. That is huge.
Because they know that they've lost. That their closed system is costing them money.
Yeah.
So, and if you switch that over, and I mean, if you can think of it as an evolution, gaming is still like pretty new. I know it's been around forever, and we've been gamers almost our whole lives. But if you look at the industry as a whole, the evolution is still making very small baby steps. And so, if you put that in terms of music and movies, the music industry blew up back in the Napster days and all that stuff when people were fighting over the money.
Yeah.
So they had to make some big changes. But movies, I don't know if any of you guys have Movies Anywhere, the Disney app that evolved. So basically that app connected Amazon, Flickster, I can't think of all of them, but basically any source that you buy, Vudu is on there also. Any place that you buy digital movies, you can access those on one app now. They're all connected, and it doesn't matter which app you use. It's all you have to do is connect them.
Yeah.
So even if I open my Amazon app, everything that I bought from Voodoo or from Flickster or anything else it's going to be there because they've connected all of them. So I think eventually that's the way the PC market's going to go. It's going to take a while because everybody wants their piece right now, but I think on the PC it's going to get to a point where people are going to get pissed off about having to log in to the freaking BattleNet or
each individual app.
Yeah, each individual app, and I've got them all. Trust me, I've got them all already on my computer, and one of the main reasons I go to Epic is because they give 2 free games a month. So I just go in and get my free game. I don't download it. I just get it.
Yeah.
And then it's in my library. So I do have an Epic account, but I'm a Steam freak. You can't beat Steam to me. I don't understand why Epic is gaining so much ground. And it's like K-Andyman said, it's because how they're dividing their profits. It's good for the industry.
Oh yeah.
But I think eventually all of these apps, and I'm hoping, what my hope is, it's going to be Dell and HP and the actual manufacturers. I think it's them that's going to build some kind of hub where you can connect everything so that you only go to one place for all your games. Doesn't matter where they are.
Well, they already have a store software that unites all your your Origin, your Steam, your Epic, your good old games. They have one software that unites them all, so it gives you a consolidated library. Now, it's not without bugs and problems. I just read the article on PC Gamer, so it's not there yet. But they're working on it, on unifying everything. But
I think that's going to be the future, where it won't matter which store you go to. So those exclusivities, that's the important part. They'll still get their cut, and you'll still have to go to those places to buy the games. But then when you play it, it won't matter. You're playing them from the same place on your PC. That's what I'm hoping eventually is going to happen, and that's what's happened in the movie industry.
Okay.
So one other thing I did want to bring up, and I don't know if you guys have heard this or not. I posted a link in the Discord. This is kind of an interesting thing. I don't know how bad it is, but there was a thing that came out recently that Epic. So basically, there's a file in your Steam directory that essentially says what games you've played, how much you've played them, who your Steam friends are. It's kind of like a personal info file, basically, that has like all kind of the summary of you as a gamer.
Yeah.
What games you played, how many hours you've played them, who your friends are, just kind of personal details about your account, including stuff that may not be displayed on Steam, your Steam profiles used to default to public and now they're private. So there's more information used to be available than is now. But it turns out the Epic Game Launcher actually makes a copy of your Steam file.
Oh, really?
And there's kind of a controversy about it. You can read the article and make your own decision. But basically Epic is making a copy of all your Steam information and encrypting it and grabbing that. Now they say they're only using it to add your Steam friends on Epic Games, and that could very well be.
So you're saying they're data mining?
Yeah. That sounds familiar, like how they promote ads to you on Facebook, or if you go to Amazon, you start searching, for dog food. Out of nowhere in Facebook, they're promoting, hey, here's some dog food. They're the latest, the best, whatever. I don't like that because that's really like touching on your privacy. That should not be.
Yeah, that's what I was just going to say. I mean, whether they admit to it or not, they are data mining. They're going to change the store to basically just like Amazon does, to reflect your buying habits.
Okay, so I'll go ahead and link this article that K-Andyman sent. I'll put a link in the show notes then for anybody who's interested on looking at that. So we got maybe time for one or two more topics before we got to go, because this thing is long in the tooth here. So do we want to talk really quick about cloud gaming? I know that's a recent topic because of this. What was that service that we're talking about? Shadow Cloud Gaming. Does anybody know anything about the Shadow Cloud Gaming?
No.
I don't know anything specifically about the Shadow Cloud, but I was in the beta for Project Stream, for Ubisoft's stream.
Yeah.
And I was like, they should have paid me to be a beta tester the way that I put that thing through its motions. I was playing on public Wi-Fi I was playing at home. I was playing wired and unwired. I was playing mouse and keyboard. I was playing controller. I did everything I could think of, and it never had any issues at all. I was playing Assassin's Creed Odyssey, and I mean, it was playing in 4K on my laptop, and it was just buttery smooth. Never had any lag problems or anything. And it was really cool because absolutely nothing is on my laptop. So even your saved game is in their servers.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah, so I would even, just to try it, I would even switch and play on different people's computers. I would just log in.
Mm-hmm.
I pulled up, because it's in the browser, it's in a Google browser is how it works.
Yeah.
So I would actually pull up an incognito window and open it up at work on my work PC.
Yeah.
Just to see what would happen, because I figured it would be blocked anyway. I didn't think I'd be able to get in, and sure enough, it worked fine.
Oh, wow.
So it's really crazy, yeah, that thing just works. But I'm interested...
I wonder how much, megabytes per second that thing has to be in constant communicating with the server, because that's a lot in order for you to have like a 4K resolution.
Yeah, exactly. And I have a data cap on my service, so that would be a problem for me.
Yeah, so do I.
No, and the other thing will be that it really depends on your internet. You really have to have like really good internet. You won't be able to have it like 1 megabyte or something like that.
So that was another thing that I did is I purposely switched from my 5K to my 2.4 on my Wi-Fi just to see what would happen. It was still buttery smooth. So I don't know what kind of magic they're doing on their end, but they're doing something crazy where all the processing is on their end. There's nothing really going on. I mean, you could technically play this on like a real busted old PC because none of the power is coming from your PC, and they're somehow magically enhancing whatever internet you're using also, because in the 2.4 it still looked and played amazing. So I don't understand. I don't understand how they're doing it, but what I want to know is when it actually launches, and GDC is coming up actually this next week. It starts on the 18th. It starts tomorrow, and GDC is when they're supposed to announce probably Google's either gaming console or their service or whatever it's going to be. And I'm really curious to see what happens when they launch this thing, because once you get that ocean of people jumping online, I want to see what happens with the lags and what happens with the actual games.
Okay. Yeah, we'll keep an eye on that because I'm interested. Especially if you're on the road, and if you're on the road and you want to play something, and you don't want your laptop to get super hot. My laptop gets really hot, really warm. When
mine does too. Yeah.
So
that's an
that'll be great.
Problem.
Not only that, like you will not be spending much money like upgrading a GPU just because this brand new game that just came out. You want to play it. That would be great.
Yeah,
I even played it at a Starbucks to let you guys know. Some of the crazy places I took it. I took it to a Barnes and Noble. I took it to a Starbucks.
Okay.
And I never had a problem on any of these like public Wi-Fi's either. I just turned my VPN on, which also cripples your. It should cripple whatever's coming into your system turning on the VPN, but no, it still worked crazy good.
Okay.
Wow.
I think maybe if you don't mind for next episode, if you want to give us a research of what VPN you use and the price points for VPN for whoever's interested in using VPNs, that's a good thing to talk about.
I'm actually going to be going overseas in a couple months, so I found out the one I have, which I would highly recommend if you're in the States, is great, but it doesn't work in China where I'm going. So I can, next time I can talk about some of the better options also.
Okay.
I've researched it pretty good.
Okay. Also, just a heads up, the next podcast, the April podcast, is going to be centered on Lovecraft and the Cthulhu mythos. Because I'm actually going to do an interview with a guy I met at OwlCon who writes for New Comet Games, who makes, stories and role-playing stuff for New Comet Games. His name is Ben Burns, and he wrote a series of stories called The Devil's Swamp, based on a real swamp in Massachusetts, and their Lovecraft adventures for the Call of the Cthulhu role-playing game, 7th edition. So I talked to him, and he agreed to give me an interview, and so I will be putting that interview. But if you guys want to go on the scary, more occult side, we can do exclusive, kind of like a scary version of the podcast centered on like the Cthulhu mythos for next time. So if you guys want to be thinking about stories and things you want to discuss in his universe, anything related to Cthulhu, really, all the way from Stephen King, to John Carpenter, to video games like the Sunken City that's coming up, right? And on this Sunless Seas or any kind of property that has to do with Cthulhu mythos, we will talk about. So you guys know. So I guess before we wrap up, does anybody wanna? Is there any topic that anybody wants to talk about before we sign off here?
I think it's been good.
We're good. All right. Well, thank you guys for being here in the Mutant Donkey podcast. So K-Andyman, thank you for joining us. Are you gonna be a regular in our podcast?
Yeah, no, I'll definitely come.
Okay, sounds good. So we'll see you guys the next one. Thanks to Mupi and Ethansito. Thank you to Andrew from Texas and to Josue. And then Ethan from California, he may be maybe a couple podcasts before he comes back. I think he has a conflict in April, but we'll figure it out. We'll find out. For now, I think we have enough podcasters to make it through. So guys, thanks again, and I guess we'll see you next time. Thank you for listening to the Mutant Donkey podcast. If you'd like to contact us, please send us an email at mutantdonkey@gmail.com. That's Mutant Donkey with a 3 instead of an E at gmail.com. We will also put this email address in the show notes. Thank you.